going? What's up, dudes? We're double merged up today. Got the sweater, got the hat. We're greened out. That's a term, isn't it? For you party people? Anyway, green pants. Bang, these are not merged. We have no pants for merge, but green sweater, green build hat. We're ready to go. We're gonna wait for people to come in, but we'll start talking. We're making a conference table today. This is the conference table. We got some steps that we're gonna carry out on that beauty right there. I don't know how far we're gonna get. We're just gonna start going. It's one of those where when I do live videos, it definitely makes me focus to like actually do the thing as opposed to mucking around, checking my phone, thinking about other things. Like I actually do the steps. And so in that way, I am more efficient and productive when I turn on the live camera. However, in the other way, when I don't do a live and I have decided to actually perform steps, it's a little bit less, just text coming in. It's a little bit less distracting when I don't have the camera on to actually like talk to people and keep, things interesting. So when I don't have the camera on, I do work faster, assuming that I have made the decision to work. But today, I felt like it was a decent day to give it a go, see if we can get some good things done. I see people popping in and out. We're still at 0 right now. I imagine, I don't know how the algorithm works for live videos, because at the beginning, it's really like, one comes in, one goes out. But then midway through, we have fluctuations of like hundreds of people. So yeah, we're looking like we're getting some people in. Other huge news for the live video is we have a new tripod. So if you are a fan of these live videos, you know that I changed the view a fair amount because, what's up, Philip? Good to see you in the chat. Love the purple crown emoji. Emoji sticker? What is that? I don't know what that's called. But yeah, if you are a fan of these live videos, you know that I changed the view quite a bit to try to position you so you can see things better. The old tripod that we have, it's right over there. Look, I'll do the first view change. Look at that, there's a view change. This, you can hardly see it because of how frail this stand is. Anyway, when I change the view using that stand, I'll set you down and for like 30 seconds, it wobbles around because the whole thing is so flimsy. We got a new one, you can't see it because you're being held by it. It's much more beefy. So you'll have to bear with me because I don't know how to change it as easily because there's a lot more knobs and gizmos and cranks and things like that. But it's very robust, so you won't wiggle around. What do we got here? We got Barbara. What's going on, Barbara? Good to see you in the chat. Also got the purple crown. That's fantastic. Philip, I am lucky that it's not snowing out. I will say, I had a short sleeve shirt on. It's actually a sleeveless tank that I was rocking earlier because I was like, I don't want to get my nice sweater all sawdusty because it's going to get sawdusty. But it's a little chilly in Texas for a sleeveless shirt until I get warmed up and start actually making the piece. What else do we got? Barb, yeah. 20 inches of snow, I'm assuming. That's a lot of snow. Yeah, Texas, we get snow like, I don't know, maybe once a year. And typically it's more of it rains and then it freezes, which is just horrific. But the last few years it's been, I don't know, kind of fluctuating, and we've actually gotten some weirdly good snow. I'm hoping that Utah gets some snow over the next I don't know, month or so, because I am going to go snowboarding in Utah in a little bit here. And it looks like all of the Rockies are quite barren on the ski mountains. So saw a man behind me. That's terrifying if that's the case. I hope you didn't. Corey, yeah, very bare. It looks, I mean, what's like, are we record low snowfall for the Rockies in like Colorado and Utah right now? I look at the weather every single day for Utah snow reports. It's not looking good. Nightbot needs to be updated because we are no longer in October. You saw something? That's terrifying. Yikes, gang. Well, if I get yacked on camera, then in the window? Is it in the window? Or over here? That's creepy. All right. Well, I'll stay frosty in that case. Man, I have my car's over there. Well, hold on, gang. I'm just gonna make sure that no one's lurking. Huh. Look out the window real fast. No one's in the shop, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you guys saw. But if I get taken, someone call Liam Neeson or whatever. Bigfoot, might be Bigfoot. Yeah, bad fire season for sure. Someone's standing in the woods? I don't think so. I really don't think so, but now you guys are weirding me out. Yeah, not seeing anyone in the woods. And I know that I definitely can see better than you guys can on the camera. All right. At this point, I think that people are just Thanks, Barbara. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. All right, cool. We're gonna get to woodworking because you guys are crazy. And I appreciate the insight from everybody. If they come in here, I got tools. Right on. So what we're doing right now is we're doing the bottom side of this table. This is the bottom of the table. Bang. It's a conference table. It is a Pecan conference table. I started working on this earlier this week. And the thing that is kind of the biggest question mark with the whole project is how unbelievably heavy this piece is right now. Whenever you work with different species of wood, you find that they all have remarkably different densities. And when you add all those densities up for a huge piece like this, it's fascinating to see how much different a tabletop of the same size can weigh if it's a different species. So when I was like moving all the individual planks, you see there's a plank to plank glue up, I was like, dang, these are really heavy compared to other planks like that. But then when I put it together, I was shocked with how massive this piece got. Good question. We got, what's the difference between a conference table and a dinner table? Honestly, not much. I would make a dinner table and a conference table in the exact same way. So really not much. The only thing that I could think of is maybe for a conference table, you might be putting things like a grommet hole so that wires can go up and down. And you also might put some outlets. Originally, we were going to do some outlets for this conference table, but this one, they changed their mind and said, let's just have a hole in the middle. Most dining tables would not have that. Conference tables, I mean, just size-wise, are typically bigger. Maybe I would finish them different. won't in this case. I'm gonna use the old tried and true Rubio monocoat. We got Daryl. I'm doing well, Daryl. That's a bummer to see that you're in the hospital. Hopefully everyone's okay. Yeah, so very, very little is going to be different. I mean, the style of legs, maybe where you put the legs might be slightly different, but that just depends on what kind of seating is around both of them. What we are doing right now, I've already planed the bottom of this and I've sanded it pretty smooth, but I do want to do a random orbital sander to get it really, really smooth. What I need to do now is when you have a plank-to-plank glue up over the months, over the years, etc., the wood likes to move and you don't want it to start sagging or bending. The legs that I've chosen for this specific conference table are these big, like square, I guess rectangular legs that have big old crossbars on top. And so they're going to be underneath it, and those crossbars are going to act as supports, essentially to make sure that the middle 30 inches of this conference table stays very flat. It doesn't bow up, it doesn't bow down. So middle 30 inches, we're covered. But then that didn't quite get to the last plank here. So I bought these C-channels that are smaller, and I'm just going to do them in the last 3 planks, basically to make sure that the legs that go in the center and the C-channels all added together give me complete horizontal support. I would probably be adding C-channels for the entire length of it, but for the fact that this client hit me with one of those, they delayed. I was sending the things that I needed to send them. They delayed, and then on an instant, they were like, all right, let's go, and we need it by this date, which was a crazy, crazy date. So I didn't have time to order the typical C-channels that I used, that I always use, and instead I got the thing that would come in when I needed it to come in, and that is these 4 little guys right here, as opposed to one C-channel that goes the entire length of it. But I think effectively it's going to do the same thing, especially since we have those legs in the middle that will be acting as C-channels, if that all makes sense. But to add them in, I've got these little legs right here, and I need to basically make slots in the wood for those legs to sit down in so that you can't feel them as much. A lot of times people will use a router with a little guide to make those trenches, and what I've done is I've already drawn them out yesterday. Here are the trenches. One right there, one right there. Once that's grooved out, that'll sit nicely, and then you screw it in. These slots here, if you can see the slots, are to make sure that when the wood does expand and contract, the C-channels and the slots allow the wood to do so without letting the wood warp or bend. So that's what we are currently doing. Once I have those in there, all 4 of those, then what we're going to do, yes, let's see, Peanut, right on, what's going on? Scott, you see the channel? Clever play on words. I don't know if there's a deeper meaning to that than just the channel. It's called the C channel because it technically, I don't know if this is backwards for you, it looks like a C. Which way is a C? Who knows? Anyway, yeah, so you could use a router. I have found the easier way to do it is to use a track saw. You could probably also just use a normal circular saw, handheld circular saw. I love the track saw because you know exactly where that line's going to be, and you can see this, you can actually drop it in, whereas a circular saw, it's kind of like, it's all or nothing. So this is a nice one. You can get a lot less expensive ones, but there was a time when I was cutting up an incredible amount of plywood, and that was kind of the move. So anyway, I'm gonna get going with cutting these. While I am, I'll be mic'd up. I don't know if you'll be able to hear me because I'll have a mask on as well. I'll be yelling at you. If you can't hear it, then just enjoy the ASMR sort of, woodworking. You just kind of see the process happening a little bit. Every time I make a few cuts, I'll come check out the chat. But this is a project that I do have to get at least the bottom finished today. So as much as I love to interact with the chat and get duped that there's someone outside my shop, I have to actually do woodworking. So here we go. The nice thing about this track is that you can place it exactly where you want the blade to go to. Now, one thing that you might be thinking of is if I'm going to be using a saw blade to cut this line, the ends of it, they will either be too long because the full depth of the blade needs to go all the way to the end, meaning the kind of curvature or the run out is going to go further than it. So what I'm going to probably do is stop it a little bit short of the ends here and then use a router to clean up those ends. That is the goal. I've already set the depth of the blade yesterday. Safety first. We'll get the hat in frame. Check it out.
Well, let's get going on this because we've got deadlines to hit. Well, the key is you gotta get the end of the C-channel in line. I didn't make that mark. Hold on just a second. Alright. I want to know where I have to get to. This is also closer, typically, than I would, Nightbot did something. Who knows what Nightbot did? Yeah, these C-channels are closer to the edge than I would typically like, but I really wanted to support this outer plank right here, and so that's why they're so close. Sweet. What's also a bummer, these C-channels are relatively small as far as C-channels go. In the blade of this saw, it like almost clears out the entire trench that I need it to. But I probably will have to make 2 passes where I ever so slightly move the track. So, you see now that we have one channel partly created, now we've got to get the other channel. the reason that I like using this track saw more than I like using a router is a router, I don't know, it just feels like a router's motor and cutting method. It just gets more tired and doesn't move. So now what I want to do,
I mean, I had a pretty good, I had a pretty good bead on exactly where the legs of this C channel were gonna go, and I traced it out quite nicely. Yeah, I just gotta make sure, like, yeah, okay, I've made them. Yeah, those are correct now. So, if it makes sense, I've gone to, hold on. There we go. I've gone to the edge of where I've marked on the C channel, but the blade has a curvature, so the end of these channels are gonna be kind of like sloping up because of the circular nature of that blade. So that, at the end right here, is where I'm gonna have to go with a router and clear out the rest of it so that we have one entirely flat base to that channel. So let's get the next 4 done real fast, but that's essentially the process. Hold up, that's what I'm talking about. How am I able, yep. Bang, there's that comment, gone, bummer dude. Wayne, what's going on? Barbara, still, what's going on? How we doing? You guys are wild out there today. I was thinking about it. That's a dirty little trick with the whole person in the woods sort of thing. I don't do a lot of live streaming. I've never watched it. But I imagine that's an easy like prank you could do, like, oh God, who was that dude, right? And then now you freak the dude out. So clever. But all right, we got woodworking to do. We're gonna do the same exact process over here. Who was that? What's up? Can't read it while I'm walking. Hands something? What's going on, Hands? Wayne, what's going on?
all right. So yeah, I've got this new tripod, right? It's kind of cool. Which country? I assume that means which country am I in? I'm in the United States. Seems like we got an interesting slew of chat friends today. Putting the track saw right where I need that blade to cut. Let's get the old goggles on. Let's get the old headphones on. It's weird. In Instagram and in YouTube, when I post a video, people love to make fun of all of the the mask and the goggles and the earmuffs. I'm cranking things out, man. I gotta think about the long game. Didn't quite go where I wanted it to go. Gonna make one more little pass here. I'm just trying to get rid probably need to get a new track for this track saw. It just doesn't feel like the line of this track saw is exactly where this blade is cutting anymore. And it kind of depends on like where on the track saw I am. So I probably just need to get a new track here. Pretty good though. Yeah, it feels like the further I go, the more off the track, like the more away from the track my blade is hitting. So it's like the track misses, and then you gotta know how it misses. If that makes any sense. This might be like the last project I can do with this track saw. Or track rather. Maybe gotta get a new one. Let's see if this fits. Yeah. Alright. Cool. Check the chat real fast. Okay.
Let's see. Michael, doing well. Thank you. Where do you get your C channels from? Yeah, C metal. I call them C channels. I get mine from a place called Bidwell Iron. I want to say that we might have a discount code for that. I don't know if it's in the chat. If you go check out Bidwell Iron, just type in like all capitals, outer woods or outer underscore woods. That might get you like a discount. I'm not positive. Patty, what's going on? Great to have you in the chat. Wayne, what do we got here? What would you recommend for someone new to woodworking? I guess maybe, I don't know, specifically, what are you thinking of, Wayne? That's a very open-ended question that I'm not positive how to answer for you. So yeah, if you got specifics, like specific recommendations that you need, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, if you have something. And then I'll do the next little bit here while you're thinking of that. Yeah, and this, I don't know if you're noticing it, anyone who has been in the chat before, but what the hell is this called? The stand that the phone is on is much more stable than it used to be. I'm moving it right now, so that's why it's a little jiggly, but watch. The moment that I let go, look at that. It's stationary. It used to wobble a bunch. Trying to get you as zoomed in here as possible to get you a little bit of a new angle. That might be the best we got here. Doing the same thing. Got like 5 more minutes until the next step and the next little explanation here, but we'll try to breeze through it. And remember, right now, all we're doing, for those that have popped in recently, is we are taking these, they're called C channels. They look like C's, depending on which way the camera is for you guys. And we are embedding them into the bottom of this conference table to help things not sag on the edges here. We have good supports from the legs in the middle. These guys are just put on the edges to help these last 2 planks stay really nice and flat to the rest of the table. Typically, I would be doing it across the entire table, but as I described earlier, there were some crazy deadlines set by the client, and the typical C channels that I would buy couldn't get in time So I had to get whatever I could, and what I could were these things. So between these guys and the normal legs that are going in the middle of the table, we have the full width of the table supported by some sort of metal support system. Anyway, we got to cut out channels for these guys. And to do so, we are using a track saw. And I know that was redundant to some people, but I was saying it in case there are new people that have come in and just have no earthly idea what is going on. We set the track at the position that we want it. We gotta go bring this saw around to the other side so that our cord doesn't get jumbled up on the bottom here. If you're just coming into the chat, you missed a section earlier where people playing a prank on me, that there was a mysterious figure outside of my shop. Look out, look out. There was not. Or he's still out there hiding. But he's waiting. He hasn't got me yet. He's waiting for the right moment when there are more people in the chat.
That was the first time I was ever tricked on camera, though. I mean, people get me to say silly things from a text, but you guys are crazy. All right, can we see it? We can see it. I apologize if my big head gets in the way. First and foremost, I do have to make sure this conference table goes well. So I've got awesome. And again, if you're just coming in, I'm using a track saw rather than a router, because I feel as if to get the majority of the channel grooved out, this tool is quicker. It's just a bigger motor, sharper blades, I don't know. One more little pass here. See if this guy fits. Gets a little tight at the end. Which way? Looks like it's not quite far enough apart up there. So we just need one more little cut. on the inside, they're kind of spread. Spread the channel out just a little bit. Yeah, that's better. And if you were new as well, and you didn't hear the explanation earlier, I'm going to these tiny little lines, if you can see them, but that's where the end of the mark is, or the end of the channel is. And obviously with the saw blade, the whole thing's circular, so I can't get the full depth of the channel to that mark, because then I'd be cutting deeper in than I need to. So right now, if you watch the actual channel, when it gets to the end, it kind of raises up, right? So we're gonna have to go back in and fix that. We have, no, nothing in the chat that needs to be attended to. So we'll just move right along. Look at this, guys. For those that are frequent live viewers, I move it, I set it down, and we're stationary. That is very new. The old one was, the old stand was, I'm fiddling with it, hold on. The old stand was extremely wobbly when I put it down. All right, last one, and then we are going to move on to the next step, which will be kind of interesting. Put the track down, line it up, and again, what I'm finding is that the blade of my saw veers away from the track the further along I push it. So I have to just account for that, which is not what you want to have to do with a track saw. So I need a new track. All right. Can you guys hear me okay when I have this on? That's the question. And then I'm also gonna ask if you can hear me when I have this on and the tool is going and I'm trying to yell at you. So, I'll just start talking here. Maybe I won't. I don't know what I'm saying. That good old pencil there. One more cut to get the rest of the pencil. There we are. What I'm doing here when I do that, I'm like trying to blow out the dust so that the track kind of hunkers down and sits on the wood a little better. The good news is about these tracks is that you don't have to clamp them down theoretically. They've got some grippy pads on the bottom. Hold on. I gotta probably do one more pass there. Left a little bit more pencil than I would have liked to. Okay. A little more pencil. Check the fit. Fits perfect. Okay, cool. I saw something in the chat.
Then I'll see real fast. Let's angle that up. Okay, am I using a router? Right there, I was not using a router. I'm using a track saw at this point. And the track saw's purpose, this guy, that right there, is to basically hog out the majority of that material in the channel. I've used a router before to do the entirety of the channel, and I don't know if I wasn't using a fantastic router for that, or maybe the blade was a little bit dull, but I found that you can't really just do one pass with a router at the correct depth, clearing out enough width of each channel to where the router's not like really taxed. So I would have to like go a little bit, drop the router bit, go a little bit, drop the router bit. And it was taking a super, super long time as well. Routers don't have any built-in guide. So I was like having to make a jig for it or make a guide for it or something. Whereas this track saw, I know exactly where the blade's going to cut because of this track. And I have found that the motor and the blade on a track saw just clears out material much quicker. The only issue with it is the ends of the channel. You have the curvature of the blade, which is now what we have to fix. We got all sorts of new people in the chat. What's going on? WND Rind? Am I saying that? Who knows? A707, what's going on? Pablo, what up? Said Raju, something? Sorry for the pronunciation. Raj. Dawn, Emig, get a router built in to a table, bro. Don't quite know what you mean there. There are router tables, which maybe that's what you're talking about. And router tables, the point of those is to bring the piece to the tool rather than bringing the tool to the piece. And that's fantastic when your piece is smaller, right? But this piece is, my guess, over 200 pounds or so. I picked it up yesterday to flip it over to get it to this side, and I had to use an engine hoist, which we might see today. This guy, bang. So be a little tough to run that over a router table. But yes, router tables in general are extremely helpful. What am I making? Conference table. This is the bottom side of it. I'm putting in some C channels. Finette, what's going on? Good to see you. We got a green star icon, emoji, but banner, badge, something. But your name's green, that's cool too. Good to see you in the chat. Here we go. The next step we got to do is we actually have to clear out those little, let me see if I can actually draw what's going on here. That might help to explain it. Everyone might be totally clear on what I'm talking about. So you have these channels, right? Bang. And you've got the little legs that there they are, the little legs that we're trying to clear out a space for. So if you can imagine, if we're looking inside of the table, we need to clear out a channel that looks like this, right? Here's the top of the table. We need to clear out two little channels that are perfectly squared off in the bottom. The end of the table is like right here also. When I use the track saw, because we have that circular blade, right? the ends of these channels, right now they look like this. I could have kept this going and gotten the full depth right here, all the way over there, but then I would have had slop. There would have been like this little extra cut when the C channel only goes right here. So right now, we have to clear out all this material. And the way that I'm going to do that is now with a router. Bang, right here. And we got a really, what is going on? We got a really small bit that should be just about the size of the channel. Might be a little big, maybe, we'll see. Very close there. So we're gonna use this. I'm gonna set it to the appropriate depth. And then I'm not going to use a guide for this guy right here. All I'm going to do is simply freehand it. I should be able to keep a straight line, but it's gonna be such a small little area underneath the table. This thing is gonna be covering it up. I'm not worried about making that a perfectly straight line. So what I'm gonna do now is set the depth and check this out. I'm using a freaking Ryobi, baby. That's what I'm talking about. I had a nicer router and then I killed it accidentally. And I was up against some other deadline, as always. And, man, that's relatively deep there. Might just be what we have to deal with. I was up against some other deadline, needed a router, and my mom was like, I'm at Home Depot, you need me to pick you up a router? And I was like, that would actually be phenomenally clutch, Mom. So she was looking around, and I was like, hey, see if you can find the exact same replacement, because that's what I'd like. She could not, and I was like, just get whatever router they have, I'll Venmo you for it. And so she got me a Ryobi router, because that's what they had that day. And you know what? It's been just fine. It spins the bit, and that's all you need, really. And that is about the right depth. So, what are my Ryobi fans out there? Anyone in a pinch need some Ryobi? It's the budget brand. And a lot of the times, it works just fine. Especially their routers. If we got a Ryobi representative in the chat, we'll take a sponsorship. We do a Ryobi sponsorship for sure. Anyway, so now all I'm doing is I'm just clearing out the corners of all these C channels. Should be pretty easy here. I took off this handle at some point for some reason. We got one over here. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. We are not plugged in. Plug it on in. Okay. done it correct. We should now have a channel that has squared off corners. Bang. And the whole thing fits nicely in there. Feels like over here we grabbing on something. Yeah, we might be... Oh, I see what I've done over here. Oh, no. Yeah, I might have just left just a smidge. Get that last little bit. Now we're talking. Bang! So that's like that, and then we'll just screw that in, and that will enable the wood to expand and contract because we have these slotted, I don't know, reliefs or whatever you want to call them. But it will also help to keep these last two planks, one right here, staying flat with the rest of it. So, I'm just gonna knock out the rest of these. Just hang out, ask a question. Should be able to do them pretty quickly. And the next step would be cool as well. So, here we go. Now, no one answered the question. Can you hear me when I have the mask on and when I've got the tool running?
That's the question. I'll give it a test in a second with this new tool. All right. Yeah, can you hear it? Oh, hell yeah, gang. Thanks for, that's what I'm talking about, Tony. Big dog Tony in chat. All right, is that fit? Nope. What is going on there? I don't think I went far enough. Yeah, there we go. Another thing that you can do for like the next, I don't know, echelon of perfection when you're in setting these C channels is right now, all I've done is clear out enough of the channel for these legs to sit in so that it's not like sitting on the table like this. But technically, the top face of this, that much material, is sitting above it. So you can make these channels even deeper, set into it, and you can also clear out this middle section to the depth of that. I don't think it's worth it to do that. I don't think anyone would ever complain about that, and especially for this project, I can tell you that this specific client at every single turn is wanting the table to be cheaper and cheaper and less expensive. So I didn't tell them how we're getting them to that point, but this is one of those ways, I can tell you that. Yeah, that's good. One more. I have no idea if when I set you up here, if you can see anything that's going on, or if my hulking torso is just in the way the whole time.
Great. Yep. All right, those fit. Fantastic. Let's keep moving. Yes, Finette, great question. There is a reason. And for anyone else who's new, I know that I've seen some fluctuations in the view count, which means we have new people probably. We're making this conference table, right? And this client has been on again, off again, emailing me for months at this point. And it's been a constant battle of when they're ready, because they're moving into a new office building. It's been a constant battle of what price they have, or what budget they have, the funds allotted towards this project. And for the longest time, they would request a quote, a timeline, design something, and I'd give it back to them within a day or two, which is pretty standard. And then they would kind of drift away for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, a month at times. And then finally, we got to December, and they were like, hey, we need this before the end of the year, which is crazy to ask that mid-December. And at the time, we almost were able to make it happen. But when everything was good and we had things signed, I said, great, here's the deposit. When you pay that, I can get going on things. And long story short, they didn't pay that, they didn't pay that, they didn't pay that. I reminded them until finally they did pay it, along with an email saying, we need this in like 8 days, which is, again, crazy. So the reason I don't have C channels going the length of the entire table is because for the timeline that they need and the budget that they had, etc., I did not have time to get C channels in the way that I typically do, which is from a company called Bidwell Iron. And so instead, I had to find the only C channels that I could get essentially in like a day or two, because I needed to have them to keep in line with like the steps that I had to do to hit their deadline. And the only ones that I could find were these 14-inch C channels, which the reason that's okay for this one is because I was able to get, with enough time, legs that are giant metal rectangles that have a large bar across the top, and they're 30 inches long. So 30 inches of a nice solid bar, which is equivalently a C channel, kind of. I'm using the crossbar of the legs as my central C channel. But the thing is, those didn't go all the way to the edge. So I was like, okay, if I get these little guys, I can span from overlapping where the legs are to the ends. Does that all make a little bit of sense? It's kind of like the quickest way we could do something that was effective. Typically, I would be doing it across the whole length of it. I also did dominoes in this, little domino joints, which I used some big old beefy dominoes. And those guys, I think, are going to add a lot of long-term stability to where plank to plank, it won't sag because of those dominoes. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yesterday, when I was running a little behind schedule, I even contemplated with myself, like, should I even put these in? Do we really, really need those? And then I told myself that I don't want to get a call in 3 years saying that the table is sagging, and then I have to go into a high-rise office building, get the table out, take it to the shop, take it, put the C channels in, all on my own time, all on my own dime. So this just helps me sleep at night a little bit better. But great. The next thing we're gonna do is we're not gonna screw those in yet. The next thing that I want to do is I'm actually going to sand the table, the bottom of the table real fast. I have already done a rough sanding of it to where everything's, for the most part, pretty level. However, I do want to hit this with an orbital sander just to make it feel the same as the top. And also, I want the finish that I use. The rougher the surface is, did I get sawdust on my head? I think I did. The rougher the finish that I use, the rougher the table, when I put the finish on it, the finish doesn't go as far. So if I get it to a 150 grit, my finish that I will use, which is expensive, goes further. What kind of finish am I going with? What a beautiful question. I paid Eli Cantrell to ask that question at that exact time. Eli, you should be getting your check in 12 to 15 weeks. 8 cents. Anyway, no. I'm going with Rubio Monocoat. It's a little bit more expensive than something like a polyurethane, but it's worth it every time to me. For the main reason of like the time to materials and labor relationship. Let's say that you get a big old jug of polyurethane, right? And you want to apply that polyurethane to a piece like this. Yes, that polyurethane is going to be in a can that's like, that big, and it will cost, what, $15? Something like that. But then you need a brush, and then I'm pretty sure every polyurethane I know, you have to apply multiple coats of it. I think they recommend at least 3. And so by the time you put one coat on, let it dry, put another coat on, let it dry, and then third coat on, let it dry. How many hours of time have you sunk into doing that? The answer is probably at least 3 hours. It's at least 3 times as long as doing one coat, right? And whatever you decide your rate is to make a piece like this, I can almost guarantee you that if you instead go with a Rubio Monocoat, where a can that will finish this table, like I would say this is probably like $30 to $50 worth of finish to do this entire table, which is a lot more than the polyurethane. However, it takes one coat, it's very easy, and that, to me, saves more time money than increases the materials money. Does that make sense? The other thing about it is that I just like the way that it finishes better. Like, it looks much more professional, in my opinion. So I'm gonna use that. There's a long-winded way of saying it. What I wanna do, I'm actually not even going to, maybe I will. I was gonna say I'm not even going to do the technique where I color on the table and then I sand off the pencil markings. The reason I say that I'm not going to do that is because I don't feel as if I need to in order to get a good enough finish for the bottom of a table. If I wasn't on camera right now, I would not color on it and then sand off the coloring. Not because, oh, I don't want you guys to see that I'm cutting corners here. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't do that. The only reason I might do it is so that visually it's interesting to look at. You know what I mean? Like, if you just saw me kind of sanding this for like 10 minutes, I don't know. But if I color on it and you can see like, oh, he's getting there. He's almost sanded it all off. It might just be more interesting, but it's gonna take longer. I'll color it for you guys. I'll color it. The one thing I do want to do is I've already put in pencil where I want my legs to go. Quick, what's 48 minus 30? Awesome, it's 18. What's that divided by 2? 9. Thanks, guys. That's where the leg's gonna come to. That's where the leg's gonna come to. So let's do the other side. You see what I'm doing? Great. 48 minus 30, 18, divided by 2, 9, and 9. Then I have tape somewhere. I just don't want to color off these lines, or sand off these lines rather, because I don't want to have to measure them out again. So that is essentially where the legs are going to be. Awesome. Don't need to make it perfect, whatever. I just want you guys to be able to see where I've sanded and where I haven't. I don't know, I'd be curious if you're talking to a woodworker off camera, how hard they go to make the bottom of a table as good as the top of the table. Like what corners do woodworkers cut for the bottom versus the top? Because I can tell you for me, like, I'm not gonna sand the bottom as furiously as I'm gonna sand the top. I'm just not. Like, I don't know, call me lazy, but it doesn't feel worth it. No one's ever gonna know. Like, I'm still gonna get it to 150, but I'm not gonna go like orbital sander, random orbital sander, like at 60, random orbital sander at 100, random orbital sander at 120, then to 150. Like, that's what I do on the top, but on the bottom it just, I don't know. Especially for a project, I mean, it'd be one thing if a client was like, listen to me, I want you to pull out all the stops and make the nicest table that is physically possible. In that case, yeah, I'd probably do the bottom in the exact same way as the top. But, I don't know. Like, I'm doing it close enough to where I'll obviously put a finish on the bottom. And I've seen plenty of tables that don't even have a finish on the bottom. And the issue with that is if you don't have a finish on the bottom, then what happens is the rate at which there is moisture transfer from the top face to the bottom face, you have moisture differentials between the top and the bottom, and that's when you have warping, right? So I'm doing it well enough to where we won't have a moisture difference. Anyway, what else we got? The boards are not book matched, unfortunately. I wish they were. I got my lumber mill to mill these for me, and they picked out the boards. I asked them for a few little, stipulations, and they kind of adhered to it. I told them the client wanted this to be really, really rustic, and they wanted pecan. And originally I was gonna do a live edge piece, but it got too expensive for what they were wanting. So they're very much like two-toned, rustic looking pecan, that calico color, but they're not book matched, unfortunately. The size of the table, I'd only finish the underside around the outside 4 edges. That way, from a distance, if there's an elevation change, they're gonna see, the finish. Yeah, I think that's reasonable for sure. There was a time, actually, I don't even know if I know I have tables out there from my early days where I was not finishing any of the underside of the table. I mean, we're talking like early days of Outer Woods, 5 years ago. And then I was picking up some lumber from a supplier, and they were talking about this story where someone came to them with a table that was super warped and like cracking and all this. And they're like, can you fix it? And the supplier was like, yeah, we can. And they were like, oh, we looked underneath the table and it wasn't finished and there's your issue. And they were talking to me as if like I always do the same. And I was like, oh yeah, gotta finish the underside. So from then on, I started finishing the underside. I don't know. You might not need to. I'll finish the whole underside because it'll be up and ready to go. Let's see. But it all depends on where it's going and how often it's going to be moved. Totally. That's the thing about it, is it like, it's really difficult with these custom pieces to know. I mean, you have like your foundational kind of like, you're supposed to do this on every single wood piece. I don't know exactly why. That's just what you do. There you go. But with all the custom pieces, you can't like stress test all the little details before it goes off into the world, and you just kind of see how it does. Know what I mean? Like if you're in like product development for an engineering company, right? Which I used to be in my old life, you would test every single thing possible before that product went out, because you were gonna make the same product thousands and thousands of times. But with every single custom piece, it's also different, that like, I don't know, you don't know how it's gonna be. So I just have started finishing the bottom of the tables, the whole thing, unless there's some reason that I can't finish the whole underside of it. But typically I've been able to. But it would probably work just as well. 98% as well, who knows, if you just did the outside 4 inches. And then I guess maybe me and my lazy brain, I'm like, do I like tape off the outside 4 inches so that it's like a clean, crisp 4 inches? Or do you kind of feather it in and it's kind of 4 inches? Yeah, you can't account for all the variables. Yeah, totally with the Eli. I'm moving these for a second. I feel like I'm distracting myself. What am I even doing right now? I'm sanding this thing. So I don't want to sand off the lines here, because that is where the legs are going to go. And I've chosen 18 inches in for the legs. I think that's a standard amount. Yeah, it was also one of those things where these people haven't been the most communicative. So there was part of me that wanted to, and remember, really, really tight deadline, right? From their end, and they don't respond that quickly. So there was part of me that wanted to ask them, hey, where do you want the legs? Like, how close to the end do you want the legs? But my fear in doing that was that I would ask it, they wouldn't respond for like 2 or 3 days, meaning I couldn't do what I need to do with the underside and everything. And then I would just go and make it, but then they would respond when it's too late and say, hey, we want it 20 inches from the edge, and I've put it 18, and now they're frustrated because I didn't do what they wanted me to. So I just put it the most standard distance. If they get frustrated, we can move the legs later. So I'm coloring this, right? And I won't color it as violently, as I always do. Because the more intense the pencil markings you make, the longer it takes to sand them off. I'm mostly just doing this so you guys can see where I've sanded and where I haven't. Purely from an entertainment standpoint, rather than I really want to make sure I sanded the bottom of this table perfectly. I will sand the top of this table as perfectly as I'm able to. Anyone got any good pencil recommendations? I feel like these Home Depot ones are decent. The ones you can just kind of like buy at the checkout. But when you're like really coloring all over a big table like this, they just dull too quickly. I think that might just be something that I'll have to deal with forever. Can we even see the lines? Can we? Oh, we can see them. Yeah, feather it. I agree. Yeah, the hard line would probably look a little weird. Okay, cool. Cool, gang. So now, I'll put on the mask. Alright, and I guess one last thing. No, I'll just say that while I'm sanding, because I'll have a lot of time to talk.
I've been told that you can still hear me when I've got a tool going. Where the hell is my tool, is the question. I had it recently. Where did I put it? Maybe that dude that was outside of the shop lurking. It's like, there she is. There we go. 150. Bang, bang, boom. Cool. Okay. Plugged in. What we got? Looks like a pretty good. $220. I'm just gonna throw this away. I'm not keeping it. You guys do that? Like what's decent, so then you keep it, but then you never end up using the ones that still look decent. You always just go for a new one. Just throw it away. Alright, gang. I'm gonna try it again where I talk.
I'm gonna talk while I got the tool going and I've got my mask on. I'll talk for a second. I'll come over to the chat, see if you can hear it.
But no. All right, gang. Get you a clip on the mic. I got the mic right. What if I like? We're gonna try something else. This could be crazy. What if I put this right here? Is that terrible? Let's see if that works. I know you can hear me right now. It might be like jumping around. Might be the issue. We're gonna try it again. Shoot. Hey, that's all right, gang. All right, so for a little while here, yeah, sure. That sounds great. We're just gonna do it to where I'll quit yapping for a second. And you guys can just hang out, listen to some sanding. And ask some questions. I'll come answer them in a second. Something I'm gonna do real fast. A little trick here.
I don't know. Eli, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's gonna be a cool table. The net, I don't know if you're saying bye too. You're just waving to Eli here. Eli, thanks for all the chats today. We'll see you next time we do this. Yeah, gonna be a cool table. Here's a little tip for everybody. The top of this table, I imagine, is going to have some holes, knots, cracks, gouges, etc. Just because pecan's a little bit more, it's like that. And the way that I'm gonna fix it this time is actually with sawdust and wood glue rather than resin. So I need pecan sawdust. I have no idea what is currently in this bag of sawdust. It's from who knows how many projects. So I'm gonna empty this out so that as I'm sanding this entire piece, I know that it's only pecan sawdust in here. Get you right there.
All right. now that's empty. And let me get you up. That's probably the highest we can go. But that's a cool view. Awesome. One thing I will say, as we keep going, is,
Hold on, Eli, what do we got? Oh, no, someone else. Regina, I'm so glad to see someone making something by hand. Yes, when the Skynet rises, we will need this knowledge. Yes. I don't know. I don't know what Skynet is. I don't know if that's just a exaggeration for something or if that's a thing that I should know about. But yeah, you gotta make things by hand. That way when, the robots take over. I think there's gonna be a revolution, hear me out, where there was the longest time when people started going more towards automation because it was cheaper, right? And we're still in that for sure. And we're like, I think at the tipping point of that. I think that, like, let's say AI, for instance, right? Let's say that there's going to be AI lawyers in a minute, in a few years, whatever, that are just as good as normal lawyers, effectively, or like 95% as good. I think that, yes, you can get the same legal advice, but there's going to be a premium paid on human lawyers because, it's nice to just talk to a person, know that they're looking you in the eye. Anyway, same thing with woodworking. Like, there will probably come a time when robots can literally just make a table, but I think that there will be a premium paid on handmade tables because my little monkey brain and my little monkey hands actually made this thing. What was I coming up here to say? That's right. Hello. What I was going to say is after I get done sanding this, which hopefully will be in like 10 minutes or so, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put a finish on the bottom of the table. I'm going to screw in the C channels. Then I'm going to put a finish on the bottom of the table. And then I'm going to flip the table. And that is going to be an interesting process. I don't even know how I'm going to do it yet. But I'm going to flip the table so that the bottom is facing down and the top is facing up. I think that's what I want to do. I might not need to do that, but I think that's what I want to try to do by the end of the stream, is have the C channels in, this surface finished, looking beautiful, and then flip it. All three of those things should be very interesting to watch. So if you're watching right now, just enjoy the soothing sound of sanding. You can turn down the volume a little if it's too harsh, but then know that we've got some interesting stuff coming up in like 10, 15 minutes. Keep that in mind and talk amongst yourselves about the robot invasion or something.
this is coming from someone who does use ChatGPT to get help on things. So it's a mixture of both, the yin and yang of life.
Real fast. So this is that thing I was talking about earlier, where I don't quite go as efficiently when I'm on the live because I come check on the chat. What's up, Rainer? I think I remember you from the other day. Do I have that right? No new chats on Skynet/robots, the robot takeover. So still, that's the topic of the day right now. Not of the day, of this step. While I'm sanding, I want to hear some robot stuff, some crazy robot conspiracies. That's what I'm gonna propose. Here we go. Back to sanding. Look, if you guys prompt me to talk about some robot stuff, I don't know that it will be right, but I'll talk about robot stuff for sure. Holy moly, guys, this is a fantastic idea. I've done this before, and this is the way to do it. Huge glowing endorsement, recommendation, whatever you want to call it. Dual wielding sanders. Literally, it is so the move for a large tabletop like this. Let me tell you what. You don't need two hands for one sand. It's trying to rhyme. You just need one hand for one sander. And so if you got two of them going, you can easily operate them and maneuver them. And you will literally sand the surface twice as fast. Because you got 2 times this sanding surface area. Doesn't matter if you're going in different spots or you're hitting the same spot With Bose Sanders, it'll just go twice as fast. We got chats. Robots, space opera series called The Sun Eater has ancient AI that use humans as additional processors. That sounds sick. Is that a real thing, or is that you're making that? Or is that a Outer Woods make it? That's my question. Oh man, I'm gonna botch this. Declange. I apologize. Declange Lager. That's. I'm 98% sure that is not how you pronounce your username, and I apologize because that's a wonderful chat prompt / recommendation. 2 Sanders. That's what we're doing. Both at 150 grit. Give it a moment. All right, tried that. I just exited and came back in. I don't know if that did anything. I wish I could, hey, we're back. Are we back? Okay, wow, that's crazy. We lost 90% of everyone that was here. I'm gonna put in, hopefully we can hear it with the receiver now too. There are 8 of you, my 8 brave soldiers who endured through the sound issue. Okay, 14 now. All right, we're gonna keep sanding because we're almost done. Nightbot's in there. Nightbot might be one of the remaining people that made it through the sound issue. That's a bummer. The other day, if you saw it, I had a real issue with my video as well at the beginning of a stream. People could see me, but I couldn't see the screen. So that was bad. But we'll keep going. We'll keep going. We're gonna finish sanding this. 2 sanders. All right. Yeah, the technique with the 2 sanders, it really doesn't take practice. I mean, you can either like kind of oscillate them so you're kind of getting the same spot, or you can kind of like, you know, spider out like that. I said earlier that it's no harder than 1 sander because you don't need 2 hands for 1 sander. I will say, after I did that chunk that I just did with 2 sanders, my forearms are feeling it more so than they would have been if I would have only used 1. So I would say it's more of like a fatigue thing because you gotta basically wrangle each of them with 1 hand rather than wrangling one of them with 2 hands. But other than that, no, it's not a difficult technique or anything. It goes faster. You just got more sanding power. You know what I mean? We're almost done. A few more minutes, then we're gonna move on to the interesting parts. So hang in there.
So something that was happening.
I don't know if you guys were getting this, but it was like the two sanders, when like one of them was struggling more than the other one, or like just kind of taxed more than the other one, they would kind of like go in and out of like harmonies and like resonances or dissonance. It was like some cool, like, I don't know, drone or chant of it, like a song or something. I need help with the pronunciation, but the clangelager, laughter, the clang of laughter. Thank you. The table is going to be really pretty. Just wait till we get a finish on it, and we're going to do that in just a second here. Finette, good question here. The edge of the sander sometimes, doesn't that risk leaving uneven grooves in the wood? I was actually thinking about saying this before anyone even said something about it. Great question. Short answer, yes it does. Longer answer, choked on some sawdust here. Yeah, longer answer is, you know, like it does for sure. And if I feel this table, yeah, it's not perfectly flat. Like you could put a marble on it and it might kind of wiggle a little bit. Declan. All right, cool. I didn't know like which part of that was the like first name, last name, or something like that. But yeah, Declan, what a cool name. What up, GG Story? Cool. Yeah, so Finette, I do, and since this is the bottom of the table, I'm not as worried about like how perfectly flat it is. So if you saw me doing that, that's because earlier in the process when I was planing it / disc sanding it, I kind of like had parts where you could see more marks, and me digging at the side, that was probably me just like trying to get something out and not being too worried if I had a microscopic little undulation in the top. I'm definitely going to try to keep things more flat, and I'm going to try to start out with a flatter surface too. That's yeah, on the top, I don't know, I still might do that a little bit. I'm definitely going to be more patient with my sanding on the top. Part of the reason I wanted to do this so quickly is because from the view count, it looks as if less people want to just come here and watch like ASMR stuff, and more people want to hear like commentary or questions or things like that. So I was trying to just kind of get through it. Again, bottom of the table, I was kind of blowing through it, not super worried about how perfectly flat it is. On the top, I will go to further lengths to try and make it super flat. One thing that I used to do that unfortunately I can't do as easily anymore is I used to send these huge tabletops to a different custom woodworking place that basically took custom woodworking to a further extent than I'm doing, where they went perfectly vertically. The person who started it and started making all the pieces hired another person under them, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 10, and basically the person who was originally making all the pieces no longer did any woodworking and was just managing all the woodworkers. But if you go that direction, you get bigger and better and better and better tools. And they had a massive, like, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 foot like warehouse, and they had this gigantic wide belt sander. And so basically you take a piece like this and you just feed it on a belt, and this massive sander just planes it perfectly. And that does essentially everything up to what I have done so far. So it saves so much time. Unfortunately, they didn't go out of business. They did go out of business, but it's not because it was going poorly. It's because the dude who started it was like 75 and he wanted to retire. And long story short, the biggest asset he had was the property. So he sold the property, and there went the business, and there went my person I could pay to flatten the table. And a hand belt sander would be too harsh. You could definitely do a hand like belt sander to get out. Like you'll see on the top side in a moment when I flip it, that when I made this glue up, my plank to plank, I used dominoes to try to keep it to where it wasn't like, you know, planks looking like that and like super uneven vertically, but still there's a little bit of height mismatch between the planks. And I had to do that. I had to level it all on the bottom, and I used a electric hand planer to do so. And that kind of gets out the bumps like that, but then a electric hand sander, a belt sander, would be kind of like the next one after an electric hand planer, like a little bit less aggressive, leaves it a little bit more finely finished. You can definitely use that, and you probably still could at this point, and it might help to just like level one bump into the surrounding area, and so it like levels out little sections this big all over the place, and then that way it does leave the average bumpiness less. For the top, I'm not going to do that. I didn't do it for the bottom. For the top, I will use the electric planer to get everything relatively level. I might then use a normal, not electric hand planer and just kind of smooth it over, see if I can get out some of the bigger bumps. But then when I do the orbital sander, I'll probably start at 60, and then I'll go 60, probably 100, then 150. And I'm really going to try to keep it as perfectly flat as I can and just be more patient with it. It just takes longer. Yes. To ensure the flatness, would it be a better tool than the orbital? For sure, to start off, the belt sander would be better for flatness, but the orbital that I know of is kind of like the gold standard for the last sandpaper to touch a surface before you finish it. I could be wrong, and you could use a belt sander to do that. The reason the orbital is nice is because it like blurs all of these sanding lines, whereas a belt sander, since everything's going one direction, even if you get to a pretty high grit, you're going to be left with like sanding lines that go in one direction. The orbital aims to like blur all your sanding lines. Anyway, hopefully that helped. But yes, I was definitely smushing into it, and that is technically not what you're supposed to do, but it's the bottom of the table. That's okay. Great. What I want to do next is put these C channels in. No, we're going to finish it. We're going to put a finish on it next. We're going to put a finish on it next. And this is another, I don't even know if I'd consider it a corner cut. More just like, again, for those of you just tuning in, these clients wanted something really, really inexpensive, and they wanted it really, really fast. What are you going to get when you ask for those things? It's going to be some corners cut to just make sure you get your table. They have like an opening day for their office. So I'm going to put a finish on, and typically if I were going to do like pull out all the stops table and they weren't chirping at me for a better price or quicker, etc., etc., what I would do is put a finish on the bottom and kind of feather it to the edges. Make sure not to get over onto the actual like edge here, but just get it, you know, to the outer perimeter of the surface. And then I would let that dry overnight and then flip it and then do the top. You could finish it all at once, but it's really hard to finish the underside of something if you're flipped on your back, right? So I'm going to put a finish on it, and because of the finish that I use, which Declan, great little segue here, I use Rubio Monocoat, and it's a really high-end finish, but it's worth it in my opinion. Because I'm using the Rubio Monocoat, I can get Rubio Monocoat dry to the touch within 15-20 minutes of application. And when I do that, that enables me to flip the piece over and keep working on the top. And the reason I wouldn't do that normally is because even though this finish is dry to the touch, it's not at all cured. And when I'm flipping it, I could see a situation where I leave a scuff or something like that. I shouldn't be leaving too much of a scuff the way I'll do it, but I don't like to touch the Rubio Monocoat finish unless it's had at least one night to cure, but we kind of got to go based on the timeline and the price that they have requested. Someone asked if I'm going to leave the edges square or round them. I'm going to leave them square. I'm going to take a piece of hand sandpaper in the crook here of my hand and just like take the bite out of the edges. You'll see that actually right now, because I have to do that before I put a finish on it. So great segue once again. Here you go. We'll get you right here. We'll scooch it down just a little bit. Bingo. So, I'm actually not going to do that because I have to continue to square up those edges. It's going to be a little bit of a weird order that I'm doing things in. The edges are pretty good right now, these, but I'm definitely, when I go to the top, I'm going to use a track saw to get them perfectly flat. Right now, they're just kind of like eyeballed flat. And if I do that, I will resharpen these edges. So, oh man. The problem is it's just so damn hard to flip this table over. You know what I mean? This thing's so heavy. Makes it hurt less when one of the clients bumps into the edge, for it will happen. Yeah, it definitely does happen. I'm gonna take the bite out of it, meaning that like right now, that is sharp to the touch, but I'll just kind of like smooth it and roll it over so that it's no longer sharp. But yeah, if they hit the corner, even after I make it a little bit smoother, it'd still hurt, but you'd have to really round things for that not to hurt. Cool, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the dust off of this and then I'm gonna put a finish on it because we just kind of gotta go at this point. Like I'm just looking at the clock here and realizing that like we gotta hit some pretty important checkpoints today. Not only for this, but for other clients that need quotes given to them, designs given to them, and then also, gang, assuming that everything goes according to plan, we have a full-length YouTube video coming out tomorrow, which is for a table that I guarantee you, unequivocally, there is not another one in the world that looks like it. There are others in a similar style, but I guarantee you, in the history of the world, there has never been a table with this exact design before. And I'm not even just talking about like, 4 feet by 2.873 feet. Like I'm talking, the shape of it is something that no other person in the world has done before. I'd be willing to bet all of the money that I have to my name on that statement, which isn't a whole lot of money. I'm just getting the dust off of this, because if you put Rubio monocoat on a dusty surface, then the finish does its molecular bonding with the dust rather than the actual wood fibers. And we don't want that. So this is a way to get the majority of it off. Going to be able to put your feet, put the feet on it if you flip it now. It's a good question. No, but I don't have the feet yet. They're supposed to come in today. Man, I'm wondering, does it make the most sense just to get a finish on this on the underside and call it a day? Regardless, we got to put the finish on right now. It's a great question, Finette. What was I going to do about that? Let me think on that while I get the Rubio monocoat out. I'm going to talk out loud to figure this out. First of all, where did I put the Rubio monocoat? Here it is. Okay. So I'll put the finish on. if you want to let it cure, then probably. I don't need to let the finish cure before the legs go on necessarily, but I think for the legs, I was wanting to, instead of just screwing them into the wood, which I definitely could do, originally my plan was to do some threaded inserts, some metal threaded inserts. And if you know what those are, cool. You can ignore this next part. If you don't, then here's what those are. They're essentially, you drill a hole into the bottom of your tabletop, and it's a pretty sizable hole. It's probably like a 1/4 inch in diameter, which is big. And instead of just using like a wood screw that goes through the legs and into the wood, you're now going to use a machine threaded screw and put that through the metal legs, and then that machine metal screw is going to thread into the insert that you've put in the wood, and it won't, essentially if you wanted to take it out and put it back in and take it out and put it back in, it wouldn't be like chewing up the wood every single time you did that. And originally that was my plan to do that. I don't envision these people are going to be taking off the legs and putting them on a whole lot of times. But to do that, it requires a little bit of work to the underside of the table. And again, I don't have the legs yet. I think they're going to get here like tonight, which means I'm going to have to put them on. I'm delivering this thing Monday, by the way, everybody. But it's insanely difficult to flip this thing is the challenge here. And if I put a finish on it right now, then I could let the finish cure overnight and come back tomorrow, put the legs on, or like mark them out, because I'm not going to transport this thing with the legs on it. It's far too heavy to do that. There's no point in doing that. I could always put the legs on when I deliver it. I don't love that idea. Because then tomorrow, okay, I'm just thinking out loud. This is what I have to go through every day for scheduling purposes. Tomorrow, I would then have to come in and put the legs on, or at least mark out where they need to be, drill the holes, prepare it. That would be cured enough. I could flip it, and then there's a fair amount of work that needs to be done to the top of this thing. Part of that is potentially filling in holes with wood glue and sawdust, which I suppose I could do that in the same day I could put a finish on that. I think regardless, I really do want to put a finish on this bottom today. I don't think there's any reason why I wouldn't want to do that. And if I did that, I mean, we could just see how hard it is to flip, right? Let me just put a finish on the bottom. And at that point, we can put the C channels in. And then we could just see how hard it is to flip. Maybe I'm making a bigger deal about it. I know it's going to be pretty dang hard, but it might not be as hard. So if we can flip it relatively easy, then we might even be able to do more of the top today. Probably have more work to do to finish the top tomorrow, but then I could always just flip it back over one more time after the top has been finished and just do the legs real fast. Or even do those the day of the delivery in the morning, like here at the shop before I deliver it. That could be the move. All right, gang, we're putting a finish on this thing. I'll leave you right here because I need to go over here and get all the materials I need for Rubio monocoat. One thing that I hope I'm not short on right now are spoons. I use spoons for my Rubio monocoat here. What do we got? What do we got? I see spoons. We have 3 spoons. That's exactly the amount of spoons that we need. I do need also my squeegee. Is Big Squeegee in the chat today? I assume he's not. We'd probably know about it if Big Squeegee was in the chat. It's okay. We got a little squeegee right here. All right. How are we doing on time? 12:46. Been going about 2 hours. How are we doing on battery? We still got battery. Yeah, let's get this finished. Let's get the C channels in there, and let's get it flipped. That's the goal. That's the goal for the chat. I need a chisel of some sort. Here's my chisel. Bang. Need my gloves. Bang. Let's do this. Rubio monocoat. This stuff is really, oh no. Let's put some gloves on. Oh, it's already too late. I'm already sticky. That's a real bummer. Rubio monocoat is pretty much the only finish that I use unless it's like a interesting piece that calls for something else. And I can't think of an example off the top of my head. Maybe like a restaurant table. Because Rubio monocoat requires you to not clean it with anything too caustic. I actually just tell people, hey, when you're using, when I finished it with this finish, just use like a damp cloth. That's all you need to do. And restaurants don't do that, and they use like bleach and stuff. So I use polyurethane for restaurant tables, but pretty much for everything else, I'm going Rubio monocoat. Anyway, how did I flip it before? Finette, great question. I'm getting so much dust on this. I used an engine hoist, that thing, and that is what I will do this time. But I flipped it on the floor, and right now it's elevated, so I have to get it from up here down to the floor, then flip it, then get it back up here. So that's a lot. I'm gonna go with 6 spoonfuls for this piece. I think that should do it. 6 of these and 2 of the accelerator. 1, I'm not gonna talk for a second. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to give you an idea of why Rubio monocoat, or like how much it is, this can is a 1 liter can. And I think it was like $175 for this. These came together. It's a 2-part thing. But this will do much more than just this table. I don't know, it'd probably do like 4 or 5 of these tables, 6 of these tables. That was 6. Now I need to do 2 of the accelerator because it's a 3-to-1 ratio. Kind of harder to get in this one. Let's go. Quit dripping. Come on. There we go. There's 1. Good enough. And here is the second. Come on. That's fine. 2. All right. And then notice how I don't want to mix any of the spoons, so I put my resin spoon over there, or my,
part A spoon over there, my part B spoon in there, and then a third spoon is actually what mixes it. I really hope that I'm not missing something, logistically speaking, with the order of operations that I have to do to finish this table in time. If I put a finish on this now, then I flip it. Yeah, it's not perfectly dry, but it will be dry enough to where I'm not worried about anything significant happening to that finish. It's pushing it to then do more hardcore woodworking to the top, but I think it would still be okay. Like, it really gets dry to the touch extremely quickly. I think I could probably do that. And then that leaves tomorrow to finish it. The big challenge tomorrow, if I had a full day, yeah, it wouldn't be much of an issue. But the problem is I have a site visit for a potential new project that has a significant number of things they might want, like coffee table, dining table, bench, maybe even like some art. I have a site visit at 10 a.m., which is like, I can't go to the shop before then. I'd have to get there super early, because like I need to leave the shop at 9, right? And then I won't be back from that until noon. Yikes. That's a real bummer. Okay, that's fine. We'll figure that out tomorrow. For right now, let's just get some Rubio monocoat on the dang table. We've got the mixture in there. Let's get everything off. The small dust is gone, although we've got some bigger chunky stuff that has now landed on the table. That's fine. And again, this is the bottom of the table. So like the main thing I'm trying to do here is essentially just put the finish on it so that if someone glanced under real fast, they're like, oh yeah, it's the same as the top. But more importantly than that, I'm putting a finish on the bottom. Oh man, that just comes right out, doesn't it? I'm putting a finish on the bottom because if you don't finish the bottom the same way you finish the top, then moisture can enter/exit quicker from the bottom than it can from the top, and it will cause your table to warp. So we don't want that, so we got to finish both sides. Let's get you tilted down a little bit more so you can just see this. All right, is it going to be really cool? We'll start from the back end so that we can see the front end over there. And the way I apply it, I just pour some on. I've got the correct mixture here. Then I use a squeegee rather than a paper towel. And I'm going to just spread it out. Interesting. That's not as dark as I was hoping it would be. Dang. I was hoping that the pecan wood here was going to turn into a darker pecan color. You never really know until you put the finish on it. I think it's more pretty, and then unfortunately, I think the pictures that I sent to the client showed other pecan pieces that I've made that were darker than this. And unfortunately, I have known the client to be rather particular about some things.
So I'm hoping they're not going to be like, hey, that is not the color that we thought it was going to be. I don't know what we would do if they say that, quite honestly. I mean, it's gorgeous, regardless. And the other unfortunate part is this is soaking up more of the monocoat than I thought it would. So we'll need to mix a little more to get the rest of the bottom. I'm just spreading it out. And I am able to spread this pretty thin right now. So I think it's going to be a pretty easy task for me to then go back and buff off the excess. I'm going to try not to lose any in those C-channel gouges that I made. I'm not too worried about putting the monocoat inside of my leg placement things here. I could, but I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, the video tomorrow, the long-form YouTube video tomorrow, is a style of piece that I have done a few times. I think I've made, this will have been my 4th or 5th one in this exact style. And I am getting more and more and more requests on this style. In the video, as a little teaser, who's with me? How many people do we have? How many people get this little teaser here? 20 people get this teaser. The video is somewhat of a how-to. It's not somewhat, it is a how-to for that style. And when you first glance at this style, it looks really, really difficult. But the video is going to showcase how to easily make the style. The idea of which being that by watching it, you'll be able to make your first piece in that style, and then you'll be able to have it in your portfolio. Hell, you could even, if you wanted to, just replicate and, you know, really crank up production of that one exact piece that I show you how to make. You could sell it. I could sell the one that I made in the video. But yeah, so you could either sell that and make it multiple times, or you could take the technique and concept from that video and you could start designing your own pieces with your own flair and make your own one-of-a-kind piece that cannot be replicated in this style. And again, like, this style looks as if it is just mesmerizingly difficult. But I'm trying to demystify it in the video. I think we do a really good job of doing so. It's a cool one. And we have a friend who has been a long time freelance media guy. That's what he does for his career. And that's both filming, that is creative direction, that is editing, all sorts of stuff is what he does in his career. But Outer Woods has been lucky enough to get to work with him a few times for video editing. So if you saw, let's see, if you went on the channel and you saw the long form video about me making that skateboard, the live edge and resin skateboard, he was the one who edited that entire video. He was the one also that shot the footage of yours truly at the skate park with my homemade live edge and resin skateboard. He was there with his camera filming me being an absolute dingus at the skate park. And then he did a good chunk of the editing for the video about how to make one of those wooden boxes. He kind of did the bulk editing, but then he had some other project obligations for big dog clients. And so he gave me kind of like the first cut, and then I came in and, you know, kept doing all the bells and whistles, making it clean, doing all the voiceovers, etc. But anyway, he has been editing this video, and he has been generous enough to hook us up with a phenomenal friends and family discount for the first few videos that we use with him. I don't imagine that he would be able to do that rate for much longer than about 3 or 4 videos. But it's the only way that we can afford a editor at this point. The content gravy train has just not started rolling. But eventually, when and if that does, then we'd love to have him edit much more regularly for us, which will mean more content comes out from the Outer Woods page, and then also more quality content comes out from the Outer Woods page. We're getting there. Every day's closer. Every stream like this, we get closer. I'm not too worried about this all drying too quickly. Again, if we get a little bit of streaks going on, that's not the end of the world. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? That is really pretty, isn't it? Excited to see the video tomorrow. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Like, production level, I think it's our best. Like, from the versions that he sent, where I'm able to leave comments. I did all the voiceovers, and so we had to go back and forth on, you know, he would edit something, send it to me, I'd do a voiceover. He didn't like the way the voiceover sounded. The video would change a little bit, then I'd do a re-voiceover. But all together, I mean, he's super professional, and I'm getting better and better at obviously the craft, but then also my videography of the craft. And we're just honing things in based on all the other videos that we posted about what works well on YouTube long videos, what doesn't. And we're just getting closer every single time. Yes, the light, yeah, reflecting on the table makes it look as if it's drinking up the Rubio. It really is. This is soaking it up much quicker than it typically does. But I'm basically squeegeeing it over until it doesn't want anymore. And you can tell. Like, you just start squeegeeing it, and then no more is going away, so you can just move that pile to the next area, which we have to do here in a second. Could I use a brush to apply the monocoat? Short answer, yes, you definitely could. You'll see in a moment. Hold on, let me think. 1, 2, I think we only need 3 for this last little bit. 3 of the part A. Just 1 of the part B. Hold on. Here's the 1 of the part B.
The part B is the accelerator. Apparently you don't even need it for the actual like finish to cure and give you all the durability. It just apparently makes the reaction go quicker. Sorry, I was off camera. It makes the reaction go quicker and the cure time to decrease. Question is, could you use a brush to apply it? Short answer is yes, you definitely could. Here's why I don't. You'll see in a second, I don't know if the person who asked that, who was that? Who do we got here? Kakomotodo. Let me try that again. Kakomatodo. Kakomatodo. Apologies for the pronunciation if I've missed that. I don't know if you've used Rubio Monocoat before. If you haven't, I'd recommend it. But after I squeegee all of it on, I then will use a towel or a cloth or a rag to just buff it off. And the buffing portion, you're just trying to get as much off of it as you possibly can. You just keep buffing until your cloth does not stick on the surface anymore. That's why it gets dry to the touch the day you apply it. Not even just the day you apply it, but it's like within, I could have all this dry to the touch pretty much immediately. So what I have found, Kakomoto, sorry, this is by memory, is a bad pronunciation originally and by memory. What I have found is that if I do this first application with a towel, so much of the Rubio Monocoat actually just goes towards basically saturating the towel, and then it doesn't, the amount that I put in my little cup over here, it goes away quicker. Does that make sense? Like it just doesn't cover as much of the surface because instead of going into the wood, it's going into the towel. So what I have found is that I like squeegeeing the monocoat around because then the monocoat is only going directly towards hydrating and penetrating the wood and actually like fortifying the fibers rather than just soaking into a rag. But then once you have it all spread around, then you simply just get a dry towel like I'm doing now and you just buff it off. And you'll see that the bottom of this table is going to look very nice and very pretty. But I probably worked like, I don't know, 50% as long on the like sanding steps for the bottom of the table than I will work for the sanding steps on the top of the table. And even with that significant decrease in effort and time towards a finishing step of the process, I mean, this surface still looks incredible. So you can imagine how good this is going to look on top if I really try to pull out all the stops for a clean, even finish. Like I am kind of rushing finishing the bottom of this table. Again, these clients were adamant at every step of the way that the price needs to come down. How can we make the price come down? How can we make the price come down? And they were also adamant about a very, very, very quick turnaround for when they needed it. And when those both are high in your request items or tickets, sometimes you will get what you requested. So like I can see if I catch the light perfectly, that maybe we have a couple little streaks here and there. Maybe I can see a couple little sanding marks here and there. I see right now one little spot that I missed, which I will just go ahead and touch up. But the main thing I've been describing, if you're just coming in, is at the bottom of these tables, the main reason that I put the finish on the bottom is because you don't want the moisture transfer on the top of the table to be different from the bottom of the table. And if you only have one face finished, then like let's say we only finish the top, right? Then the bottom in the summer, well, I don't know exactly. Yeah, the summer is typically more humid actually. Fibers would expand in the summer on bottom more so than the top, and it might kind of cup up. Whereas in the winter, when things dry out a little more, I think is the direction it goes. When things dry out, it will dry out more so on the bottom than it will on the top, and as a result, it will cup down. So the main reason I'm even putting a finish on this at all, past just the aesthetics, sniff test of if someone looked under there, do they see that it's kind of the same color as the top? All right, check. The main reason is just I don't want this thing to warp. And having a finish on both sides tremendously helps with that. I think I made enough for everything. And the reason I stopped midway through to go over there, what's it look like over there? Oh, it looks good. The reason I stopped to go over there is just because you're supposed to work in like 15-minute increments when applying Rubio monocoat. Like you want to buff off the excess in an area quicker than 15 minutes because you can start having it to where the Rubio monocoat kind of starts to dry, and that's when you'll get some streaks in it. So as long as you don't let that time elapse and you go buff off the excess, you're pretty much going to be left with streak-free Rubio monocoat every single time. That's why I like it. Because I have definitely had streaks on streaks when I do polyurethane. Yeah, I'm wondering if I had more time, and maybe if the client, again, wasn't so concerned about price. I personally like it when pecan is a little bit darker, and it can be very variable, pecan lumber. But I personally like pecan when it is darker. And Rubio monocoat does have quite a few different colors of finish. It's all the same durability. It's all one coat. But this is the pure version, which simply just, it doesn't add any color. I know the color has changed, but it's just because it hydrated the wood. Like in the same way, if you poured water on wood, the color of the wood is going to change, but there's no added color to it. Same exact way. This just makes it the most rich, natural version of that species possible. But Rubio monocoat does have quite a few colors to select from. And I'm wondering if I could have picked something with a slight dark tint to it, and would that have made all of this pecan just a little bit kind of more, I don't know, moody, if that's a decent word to describe it. All right, I think we have covered everything. I'm not gonna do the leg markers. And yes, if you're wondering, yeah, technically that little area will have a different moisture transfer than everything else, but it's okay. That's just kind of wanted to get the main surface, really. Yeah, you would be technically correct that that little area will have a different moisture transfer than the rest of the table. But I don't think that's going to really do anything. You just kind of want to have, you know, the main 98% of the tabletop the same. Yeah. So I'm just buffing everything off, and I just ran out of paper towels. Hopefully I have another roll somewhere. I don't immediately know of another one, but hopefully. Okay. See if I can find another roll, gang. Oh, this isn't, no, that's not gonna work. It'd be back here. Here, I'll at least point the camera to where I'm going so that you can see. All right. We got someone in the chat, love woods? You bet. You bet, friend in the chat. Me too. 117. At some point, I'm gonna eat lunch here, but I think what I want to do is I want to get this. Oh, baby, we got another roll. That roll is a little squished. That's okay. I want to get this finish on. I want to buff it off. And we are almost done doing both of those things. I'm going to put the C channels in really quickly. That's just screwing them in. You can get more fancy than that. We don't need to. You could do it with the threaded metal inserts, but I don't need to do that. I don't think that really does anything other than if you wanted to take out and put back in your C channels a bunch, you'd be able to do it. I don't think that does a whole lot. Could be wrong. If there are any 30-year woodworking veterans in the chat and have strong opinions about whether to use metal threaded inserts to attach C channels to the bottom of a table, please let me know, because I have no opinions on it. Well, I have an opinion, and my opinion is I don't think it's crucial for the functionality. Table's looking good. So yeah, if I catch the light perfectly, I can see some amount of, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's, I think the things that I'm seeing, it's just like, streaks isn't even the right way to put it. It's just like, I don't know, little artifacts in the finish. And I think it's because of how quickly I sanded the bottom of this and how like aggressively I sanded the bottom of this. With the top of it, I'm going to sand it much more patiently and uniformly. But, you know, for the bottom, that's all right. Like, what does it look like up there? Yeah, no, it looks fantastic. That's cool. It's a pretty piece. Check out this plank, man. That plank's really unique. And another thing about it is that I 100% specifically turn planks to a certain orientation so that the coolest side was facing up. So what you were seeing here is, quote unquote, the not cool side. These are all the rejects. I thought every single other plank was cooler going the other way. So that's great. Let's put the C channels in real fast. Take off the gloves. Well, before I take off the gloves, let me get rid of the spoons and put the lids back on. I always forget to do that. Okay, got a trash can outside. Oh, something else with Rubio monocoat, I've never had this happen to me, but they talk about it, is that, so you obviously use a lot of rags and such for Rubio monocoat, but you probably do with anything. They recommend, once you've used the rags, to go soak them somewhere. Otherwise, they could theoretically spontaneously combust, which is not good for a woodworking shop. As you see, I have a lot of wood things around here. I've never had that happen, but theoretically possible, I suppose. So like, we saw me put the finish on just now, right? And it is dry to the touch. Like, my hand smells like Rubio monocoat now a little bit, but dry to the touch, which is fantastic because let's put the C channels where they go. One right there. One right there. One right there. And one right there. Yeah, I don't know. Has anyone in the chat said anything about whether or not threaded metal inserts do anything special with, where are my screws at? Oh, they're over here. Yeah, do we need threaded metal inserts for C channels? If I don't see anything in the next 20 seconds, I'm going to do what I always do. But to do so, I need some specific screws. 1.5, that's going to be a little long. 1.25 is perfect, but we need some big old broad flat heads. There's 1.25. That's what I'm talking about. Do we have any washers? This could be a little bit of an issue. Those are not washers. Let's see. Oh, what are you? Flat washers. Holy moly, we're in business. That's so nice. All right. Got some screws, got some washers. Got a drill. I wonder. I'd love to drill some pilot holes into this, but I don't know if I have a drill bit. No idea about the inserts. Me neither, Finette. Bidwell Iron, when I order things from them sometimes, they send me threaded metal inserts, but then sometimes they don't. So, I don't know. They don't think it's crucial. It is also much warmer in here than it used to be. Hold on. Taking off outer woods merch sweater. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to drill some tiny pilot holes in the, oh no. I don't know if you guys heard that. Yeah, that was the track saw track, which, if you remember me saying earlier, mine's a little bit janky. That could be the reason why. It's a little bit janky. I'm trying to find a tiny, tiny little drill bit to make a pilot hole in the wood. Oh, that's a tiny drill bit. Just because I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to just put these screws just straight into this pecan. I can't imagine it would split, but I want to give it a little bit of relief. So here we go. Tiny, tiny little guy. And the goal is to make the pilot hole. Let's see if we can focus on that. No. Make the pilot hole just about as big as the core of the screw. This is a little small, but I'm thrilled we even found something that was close. It's very important that you don't screw through your table. I don't think this drill bit is large enough to even do that, or long enough, that is. All we need it to do is go in as much as the screw is long, and not even that much, because this screw is gonna definitely be sitting a little bit tall, just because we're going to use a washer and it's got the thickness of the C-channel to go through. Let me bring you a little closer. All right, and watch this. When I put the tripod down, it doesn't move. You ready? Look at that. Do you guys remember how bad I'm moving it, hold on. Do you guys remember how bad the old one used to be? Okay, so I don't need any like flag on this to tell me how deep it goes, because I've already checked. If I drilled all the way, it will not get through the table. So we're cool. Yeah, here we go. Just want to go straight in the middle. So like I've gotten dust on the bottom of this table that I just finished, and I can just brush it off. Where'd my hat go? Hair's getting in the way. I can just brush it off. Like that's how quickly it dries. Okay. And I do think it was the right move to drill those pilot holes. It was smoking, which is always an indicator that the wood you're drilling into is extremely hard, which pecan is. And since that's such a small drill bit, I'm gonna let it kind of cool off for a second. And in the meantime, I will put in these screws before I drill holes for the next C-channel. And I've got washers just on, yeah, here's what the screws look like. Oh, just dropped them. Here we go. So it's these guys right here, big old broad head to it. Yeah, they're cabinet screws technically, so they aren't the beefiest, widest threads, but pecan is such a hard wood that pretty much any amount of threads I think is gonna get you really good engagement. And when I'm drilling it in just now, like actually driving it, it's like, it's taxing my drill. So I am happy with the amount of bite or purchase that each of these screws has with the wood. Yeah, I've also found it's probably the correct move to not fully drive in any one screw at a time. When you're doing C-channels, like just get a little bit of pressure on the first one, go to the next one, get a little bit of pressure, go to the next one, and then kind of tighten them all at the end. And to tighten it, I don't know, I'm gonna do like 5 on the torquometer, and it's probably gonna, yeah, it's gonna, you don't wanna overdo it because you might basically like strip the wood. So 7 felt a little bit too much. I think 6 is probably good. All right, so we have 1 in, totally in. And the good news is the last 2 screws overlap the top metal crossbar of the legs. So we have overlap of support horizontally. So between this, and this, for all who are wondering, I know Finette asked about it earlier, we have basically a whole C channel is the idea. Let's rip this. In about 5 minutes, gang, you're gonna see something very interesting as I try to flip this piece over. So we'll keep talking through these C channels here, but then buckle up because we're gonna try to flip a, I don't know, 200, 300 pound table. And that should be relatively interesting. Let's get this one. There's part of me that does want to just make all the screw holes, but I really don't want to break off this drill bit. Do you see it smoking though? Like, I'm getting sawdust on this very recently finished. I just spit on the table accidentally. Like, I'm telling you, the monocoat is dry to the touch immediately, which is so nice, especially in a situation like today where in just a moment I have to try to flip this thing. And I'll put some towels under it and stuff like that. So that I don't have like as much friction going on there. But I'm gonna be pretty confident that like I won't really gum up the finish that I just did, you know? You know? All right, we're gonna try 6 this time. Again, just kind of do it to where you start seeing a little bit of pressure. Don't have to overdo it. This thing's gonna be beefy, I can tell you that much. Like the moment you feel the drill like kind of torque back, like you've hit the first checkpoint of bite, I guess, that's when I stop on the first pass. Because you also don't want to make it too tight to where the wood can't expand and contract. I'm just gonna go back down to 5. Yeah. All right, cool. 2 done. Funny thing is, where I'm getting to right now, oh, we got people. We got people. How wide is the top and how many boards were glued together to make it? Great question. This bad boy's 48 inches, so 4 feet on the dot. I haven't actually measured that, but I knew that each of the planks were 6 inches, so I assume it's 48 inches because I got 8 of them. So 8 boards, 6 inches apiece, 45. BFS, I don't know what that stands for. What up, 1956? What's going on? Black Lion. Interesting. Luke, what's going on? From Wales? Luke, was it you who was in here the other day that was from Wales as well? If it was, what's going on, Luke? Good to have you here in the chat again. If not, then we keep getting people from Wales, which is great. We're gonna drill the pilot hole real fast. I didn't know what to make of that other comment, so I just won't reply. If you were here at the very beginning, which I doubt many of you were, I had a new thing happen in the chat, which was interesting. Let me drill these real fast. Like, I'm just literally dusting off these little curly cues from the drill here, and I just finished the bottom of this table. Stuff's so cool. Anyway, at the beginning of the live video, had the chat going. I was waiting for people to come in, as I do, and some people came in pretty quick, but I didn't recognize anyone. And if you were one of them, if you're still in here, I'm watching you. I'm on to you now. But I had the door open like I do, kind of like this, honestly. And someone was like, "Who is that person outside?" I was like, "What? Like, there should not be any people out here." And someone was like, "No, I saw him too." I was like, "Holy shit, who the hell's outside my shop right now? Like, lurking around." And someone else was like, "Yeah, I saw someone in the woods." And I bit for the old bait and switch. I don't think there was anyone actually out there. I think, again, if you heard me earlier, I'm streaming more and more doing woodworking like this and explaining it and just having a good time like this, but I rarely ever watch other people's live streams, and I don't really know live stream culture, so I have no idea if what I'm doing is how I'm supposed to do live streams. But like I just had no idea that would be a live stream prank that chat trolls could do. Like, who's that person in the background? And then the streamer's like, what? And they start freaking out. They got me for a minute. They had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Cool. And so I've been thinking about that the whole time. Either, number one, what a clever but also kind of shitty thing to do. And then number two, if they were right, at least the person who is lurking out there hasn't got me yet. They might just be waiting for their time. Derek Jones, what's going on? Good to have you in the chat. 9882. Cool. I don't know what the importance of the number is. I don't even know why I said it. But 9882. I'm going to guess that is the day that's a long time from now, and that's 7,000 years from now. I'm going to guess 9882 is the year when... We're going to go with the year that dolphins evolve to be able to speak human languages. They're going to figure it out. Not a very clever prank. In terms of like being a prank that is harmless, no, it's kind of a mean thing to do. However, I will say they got me. It was a effective prank, but they didn't get me for the whole game, just the first half. That's something else. Hold on. Do you saw and mill your own wood? No. Yeah, the Wood Miser is a... What just happened? All right, we lost it. Hold on, gang. Oh boy. All right, chat, we have an issue here. See if we can get you zoomed in on this. I'll get back to the milling my own wood in a second. If you can see it, the drill bit has not broken, but it has come out of the jaws here. And it's always really difficult to get it. There we are. Back in place without dislodging it. We did it. Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm going to give it my best here. The Wood Miser is a big old machine that can take a log of wood and slab it up into live edge slabs. And then once you get it to live edge slabs, you can either keep them like live edge slabs, or you can then cut off the live edges and just get planks of wood like these pecan planks right here. The trick with milling wood is that if you went out and got a log that was just sitting in a field, doesn't matter how long that thing's been dead, well, I suppose it kind of does, but it's going to have moisture in it. And you have to get that moisture out, usually after you mill it into these slabs / planks. And that can take a really long time, or you have to have a kiln to do it. And you have to have the space to do it. You got to store it. The other thing about it is they're unbelievably heavy. And it's just me. So I'd have no one to help me lift things with. And I don't have space. And it's kind of like starting a vineyard or more like a winery. Like, if you start doing that now, you'll have wine in years. And that's kind of the same with wood. Like, so long story short, no, I've never milled my own wood. I think one time I might have like taken a chainsaw to a stump and then put the circular cookie cut in the oven for like 12 hours at 180. I have no idea if I got it to the correct moisture content. But I know who has that piece. It was an early Outer Woods piece. And they haven't said that it's fallen apart. So hopefully it's okay. All right, what do we got? Yeah, a lot of 50-plus-year-old wide trees. Yeah, there's a lot of trees out there that have fallen over and would make unbelievable slabs if milled and treated well. What am I making? I'm making a conference table. A 9-foot long, 4-foot wide pecan plank glue up conference table. And that's what we have right here. Corey, appreciate it, man. I don't know, Corey, man, woman, anyone, doesn't matter. I know a Corey is a good friend of mine, so that's why I said that, but whoever. Yeah, I haven't been working out at all recently. I've been off of that game. Trying to get back into it. But the good news is, doing woodworking, you kind of just, for a living at least, it keeps you active. And you kind of have to be able to pick up heavy things and operate heavy tools with precision. Okay, yeah, thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. Very nice. Right on. Yeah, you got to kind of be fit to be able to do things the whole day, if you know what I mean. So now what we got to do here is we have to flip this over to be right side up, because right now it's upside down. And let me just show you, what are we at right now? Wow, we've been streaming for a while, gang. I got to eat food at some point, but I do want to see if I can get this done before we do that. So this thing is so unbelievably heavy. Typically, I might try to lift that and flip it on the sawhorses that it's on, but I am This table, it's not often that a table like makes me nervous to kind of deal with and move around and flip and things like that. This would it would explode. Not even break, not even like draw blood. It would explode a finger or a toe. Or like your arm or something. And then also, past bodily injury, maybe more important, if this thing fell, it's pretty beefy, but like it could crack the floor. It could also just, I don't know what would happen if that thing with that much weight just dropped. So what we're gonna try is to use a crane, an engine hoist. So this is about to get interesting, gang. Let's move some stuff out of the way, and we're gonna see if we can flip this. It would be really nice if we could flip this. Let's get you a cool view. We're probably gonna have to shut the door. That's decent. That's a decent view here. Gonna have to shut the door here because I need every bit of height in my little wood shop right now. And it's gonna be about where we need this to be. Okay, here we go. I want to use this towel here, because remember, I just put a finish on this. I don't know who is still here that saw that. And so with most finishes, you'd probably think like, oh, don't touch that or else it's gonna be weird. And for most finishes, yes. But this is the bottom of the table, and this is also Rubio monocoat, so I'm gonna kind of push it because, again, for those of you just tuning in, these specific clients wanted their piece extremely quickly, and they wanted it for less money than it probably costs. So we're having to do some things a little bit unorthodox to hit their budget and to hit their timing. So I'm flipping this right now. And like even when stuff is getting on the finish that I just put on, I can just brush it off, even like 15 minutes ago. Okay, here's how we're gonna do it. Man, this could be interessante, gang. We need a toe strap. I want to see if I can get most of the dust off the toe strap. Probably won't be perfect, but let's get some of it off. Okay, then we want to throw this under. Throw that here. How thick is the table? It's 1 5/8 inches, probably a little bit less after I've kind of planed it and sanded it. Source for low profile support bars. Yeah, these guys, those are C channels. I typically use C channels from Bidwell Iron. If you check out their site, I don't have a link in the description for them, I don't think. Check it, maybe I do. But if you go there and there's like a discount code, try like Outer Woods, all caps, maybe one word, maybe an underscore, maybe a dash, something like that. Try it. You might be able to get a little discount there. I use them on any table that has a glue up like this, and I use it on any table that is a live edge and resin table. So that is most of the tables if you're keeping track at home. Finette, we're going to take our time. Let's see, which one? Okay, so that should help to protect the wood, but now I want to shorten this up a little bit. For those of you that might know more about toe straps than I do, you might be like, dude, for every loop of the toe strap, you're losing 100 pounds of weight that thing can carry. Maybe. I don't know. And then we want that thing right on the corner here, I think. Okay. Cool. This is a tutorial on how to flip a freaking huge table if you're by yourself. You do need an engine hoist. And in this tutorial, it may or may not work. Things can get a little squirrely when you got hundreds of pounds dangling in the air. I typically don't have to use an engine hoist to flip a table, even like conference tables that are longer than this, like 12, 14 feet, but this one's made out of pecan, so extremely, extremely heavy. Did I make my own snowboard? Yes. It's actually right here. Hold on. Can I yank it out real fast? Look at that right there. That is, yeah, that's my own snowboard. And yeah, I took it to, where was it? It was Lake Tahoe a couple years ago. Gave it a ride. It worked actually extremely well. Yeah, for how well I thought it might. The nose and the tail didn't quite keep their kind of upturned shape, but that's okay. Yeah, the fishing rod video is also sick. Appreciate you going and looking at all those. We've worked real hard on all the long form videos. They're a little bit less, I don't know, what would you call the vibe of this? Space Cadet, as I try to sift through all these things in real time. The long form videos still have that same, you know, unorthodox vibe. They're just less, the story is better told. The unorthodox story is better told in the long form. So we're gonna start working on this. I think that we have enough room. I'm wondering, we need to have enough room above this to where 4 feet can get back. Do I want the brakes on or off? All right, you guys see this? It's moving. Right now, the top of the table has not been finished, so not crucial that it stays pristine. This could, ooh, hold on. I want the sawhorses here to be able to move. Are you guys as nervous as I am here? Yes, I assume when you say slot the straps, you're talking about these C channels here? Yes, the wood can move laterally. Like, I'm just kind of going about this as if I know what I'm doing here. Every time I do this step, yeah, you see how everything's moving now? The sawdust under the wheels is kind of acting as like a chalk. I think that should be able to go pretty freely now. I guess I could also push this. Because at some point, that corner over there, all right, we're moving. You know what I wonder? I'm gonna try something. I want to, I need to have, yeah, 2 lifts would be fantastic. I unfortunately don't have that. I need to have some of the surface of these sawhorses over here. This is about to get sketch, gang. We're gonna keep going. I need those to start moving at some point. We're moving. All right, that was a very specific moment. I need them to be on the inside. There will be a certain point, I guess it's probably going to be at 45 degrees, when, man, I hope we have enough room. Oh, goodness. Okay, here's a... I don't know if we're going to have enough room. Because we need to get this to where it flips. Woo, boy. Woo, boy. All right, let's see. Is this a good angle? Decent angle? Yeah, Finette, I was going to close the door, but it's going to miss, I think. See it right there, the white, that's the door. Luke, I'm going to try to be careful here. We just need, this has a little bit more room in between these rafters, but I don't know if it has enough room. We need the, oh boy. We need the table to get vertical. Now that it's getting to like 40, ah! Oh gosh. All right. This is the first time I've ever done this process on a live stream. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh man. All right. I really hope I'm not damaging the corners too bad. We don't have... I'm still back here, don't worry, gang. We just don't have very much room left is the issue. Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. Everyone freaking chill. Okay. How bad is that chewing up? That's not terrible. It's not good, but it's not terrible. That's about as high as we can do that. Oh. Okay, let me put on the brakes. Like, I needed it to go a little higher. Move it bit by bit slowly, yeah. Bring one of those leg trestles more towards the garage. The problem is, it's like this. I need it to be straight up and down so I can tip it and then let it go. And I've maxed out on the height here. You know what I mean? So I'm putting on the brakes. Holy moly. And I'm wondering, oh man. Like I was hoping okay. So I can pick that up. Like if I just move these things, then it'd just be dangling. That's an idea. It would just be dangling. And then once it's dangling, your saw legs don't go down, I presume. No, they don't, unfortunately. Bring one behind you more towards the front. I apologize if what you're saying is pretty clear. I'm potentially a little stressed right now. Like if I move these guys out of the way entirely, then I could have the whole table dangling, although it doesn't quite look balanced. Shoot, man. We're so close. Am I maxed out on height here? I've got a little bit more. Which is odd. I went pretty much as tall as it'll go. Dude, we're so close. Woo! Like what I want to be able to do is if I could push these guys, like if I lift this just a little bit, got to find the center. Right? Okay, so now I've got a little bit more room. So then I'm wondering if I can just grab it from the top, and I just need to get it over that, you know, where it's vertical. And unfortunately, the crane can't help me anymore. Can I pull it? Okay. Okay. All right, I am going to shut the door. Oh, man. Yeah, I am going to shut the door here. I have a plan. How are we doing? Lift the table on the left and drag the trestle. I don't know what a trestle is, unfortunately, Luke. Slowly roll the saw legs away from the door to flip it. Yeah. I got a plan. Hear me out. I'm going to do what I did because I got it to vertical. Here we go. Here we go, gang. Oh, good grief. All right. I wish I could put more brakes on. Here's one more. All right. So if I get this to vertical, then I can pull the engine hoist with me. What are we stuck on up there? We are vertical now. We need to go just past vertical. Are we? Huh. If I it won't go past vertical is our issue right now. I wonder, can I? Okay, we are now past vertical. Sorry, gang, that I wasn't talking. Maybe we'll get you to the other side now? Holy moly. Woo! Okay, here's what I'm seeing over here. Get you right there. Yeah. Make the 1 inch, 2 inch tap. Yeah. I can't do that right now. I think I know what you're talking about. Like shortening this black bar up here. Can't do that right now. But, so here's where we're at. We're at a good spot. We've now flipped it. I don't think I've damaged the table corner too much. We've now flipped it and we have tension pulling from the other side. The one thing I'm worried about is essentially if this corner right here slips out, the whole thing's kind of coming towards me. So hopefully I can just kind of encourage it to not do that. It's going. I don't know if you can see the slow movement. Oh. And I'm just slowly twisting my left hand here. To either let it go faster or let it go slower. Oh, good grief. All right, there was that feeling. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. 'Cause now it's like, oh, good grief. I'm kind of stuck. Gang, I'm kind of stuck a little bit. Okay. Because that's going to want to just go until, until it hits that. Unfortunately, I'm not positive how I'm going to. What the hell is that? Okay. So this crane wants to move forward right now. I have no idea what's going on in the chat right now. I'm okay. But I'm just trying to think very carefully about my next move here before I move. Because the issue is there are no brakes on the crane. If I lift this up, okay, thank goodness I can get out. I think I need to let this go rather quickly. Whew. All right, let me check the chat real fast. Okay. Yeah, definitely, Frank. I was holding a fair amount of that table with my front side. So here's what I'm thinking. The lift is bumping. Yeah, there's all sorts of things going on, Finette. I'm thinking if I release it really quickly, like if I release it slowly, I'm worried that the whole thing's gonna wanna like slit backwards like that, but if I go real fast, it'll just hinge. That's what I'm thinking. There's not enough support on the other side to hold the weight of it, but I still have the weight held by that. So I'm just gonna go real fast. If it crashes, it should crash into this, which wouldn't be good for the machine, but at least I wouldn't be in harm's way. And this is gonna wanna keep going down. The sawhorses give me a little bit of stability. And oh boy, oh boy. And then at some point, oh shit, are we even? Oh no. Oh, we might have some real issues here. I don't know. Whew. Ooh boy. I don't know if there's enough length to this arm. Oh, like I'm trying to get it. Woo! All right, I think we're, oh geez, dude. Whoo, boy. I think we're okay. Oh my gosh. Chat. Let's try not to do that again. That's why I didn't want to flip this thing that much. You know? It would have been a lot better if, no, it wouldn't have been better. I don't know if there was a good way to do this. I have to move this on Monday, and I'm not positive how I'm going to do that yet. So, there's a message that's held for review. I kind of want to see it. Let's see. Yeah. That's cool. I don't know why that was. I don't know if we have the settings set on the chat to like review certain things before they get posted. But yeah, Luke, that was pretty whack, wasn't it, dude? We're not done yet, but I think we're okay. Yeah, the corner got a little busted. The good news is the table is still being held over there, which is nice. We can turn off the brakes now. And then I want to, okay. I've got one sawhorse under the table. That makes me feel, whew, bring friends to help you move it. Yeah, it's on Monday. I don't know if my friends have to work. Yeah, so for anyone earlier who was saying that, hey, looking strong, that's, I suppose, why. Is because there are times when you just have to muscle your way through something in this craft. Okay. Holy jamoly. Yeah, that was another one of our issues. Where the point is at the end of this crane to right here where it hits, that got pinned because the table is so wide. I guess that length from here, where is it? Here to, oh my goodness, it's hard to be a weatherman, to here is 4 feet, and our table is 4 feet. Okay, that was so scary. Oh, you know what I didn't do? That's not terrible. I'm looking at the underside of this still, and it's okay. Trying to put the sawhorses right in line with where the legs will go. So if they make any marks, it will all be covered by the legs. I think we're okay. Wow. All right, dudes. Corners look pretty good. Now we just got to do the exact same thing that we did to the bottom of the table to the top of the table. But I'm not going to do that on camera right now because we've been streaming almost 4 hours. Holy moly. That was not supposed to take 4 hours. Anyway, doesn't matter. Thank you, everybody, for the support and the suggestions during my time of need. I almost got smushed. I kind of got stuck in there. Luke, I don't know if there's a way to send a screenshot somewhere, but that was pretty wild. Yes, another thing that I meant to mention earlier, the merch. We dropped merch recently. Here's the hat. I was wearing the sweater earlier before we got warmed up. But merch is live. It is in the description, I believe. Finette, thank you. Great stream. I appreciate it. And you're asking great questions. You're doing exactly what you need to do to keep getting better at this whole woodworking thing. But check out the merch. A question we had last time was, does it ship international? And I think it was, for the most part, yes. I'm sure there are some places in the world that might not work. I don't know where those might be, but definitely for like North America, Europe, probably South America as well. But yeah, should ship everywhere. And I know that the site is gonna tell you for the merch. Next time doing a similar project, use adjustable trestles. Yeah, I need to look up what a trestle is, Luke. I apologize. That might be the exact thing to do. Same system as the hoist. It can wind up and down. Food for thought. Yeah. I also have motorcycle lifts that can help, but they are going from like 4 inches off the ground to 17 inches off the ground. So you kind of have to use spacers sometimes to like meet things where they are, but they're very helpful. Yeah, anyway, sorry, getting distracted. Merch should ship most places in the world. What else, gang? The YouTube video. It's coming out tomorrow. Check out the YouTube video tomorrow. I should have said that when there were all the people watching to see if I was gonna get smushed. That would have been the best promo for the YouTube video. It's gonna be really good. It's about a table that I guarantee you there is not another one in the world like it. It's in a style that I really, really like, and I think that style is kind of blowing up right now, and the video showcases how I made that piece, but then a very easy way for you to make your own piece in that same style. It's a banger. I think it's, from a quality standpoint, our best yet. Yeah. And watching through your window in a red vest. Right on, Joshua. Thanks, bud. Yeah, all right. Cheers, everybody. Have a good one.